You know that feeling? That deep, kind of nagging life weariness, where you're just going through the motions and you catch yourself wondering, what am I actually doing here? What's the point? If that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone. It's a feeling that's popping up everywhere, especially for young adults trying to figure things out in the world today.
And look, if that question, what am I doing here, is on your mind, it is not a sign that you're failing. Not at all. In fact, it's a really powerful signal. It's your own internal system basically sending up a flare, saying, hey, this current design, the way we're doing things, it's not working anymore. We need an upgrade.
So the key here is to completely reframe this feeling. It's not some enemy you have to defeat. Think of it more like you're an architect and you've just gotten the first project briefing from your most important client, you. Your own system is saying, this current structure is unstable. I need a new design, please.
And that idea right there leads us to this massive shift in perspective. It's all about moving from a passive role, where you feel like a victim of your circumstances, to a really active one, where you become the designer of your own experience. It's about firing the passive overseer and promoting yourself to chief architect. This really breaks down the two mindsets, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the overseer, the victim, who sees life as something that just happens to them. Their focus is always on the external stuff they can't control. The economy, politics, what everyone else is doing. And the result? They're stuck, totally paralyzed. But then you have the architect, the designer. They see themselves as an active creator. They focus inward on the things they can control, their choices, their actions. They don't just experience reality, they design it. Okay, so before we can build anything new, we've got to do a survey of the old site. We have to understand why the old structure is failing in the first place. Let's take a look at the faulty blueprint that's causing all this life weariness. The diagnosis really boils down to three core systemic problems: an external locus of control, a nasty habit of negative future pacing, and something we're going to call a polluted interface. Let's dig into what each of these actually means. First up, external locus of control. Fancy term, simple idea. It's that deep down belief that your life is being controlled by stuff outside of you. It's the feeling that you're basically a passenger in your own car, just along for the ride. And that naturally leads to feeling completely powerless. Second, we've got negative future pacing. I like to call these brain spins. It's this unconscious habit our minds have of playing out the absolute worst case scenarios over and over again in vivid detail. And what that does is it takes all that future fear and anxiety and just injects it right into our present moment, leading to this constant chronic stress. And finally, number 3, the polluted interface. We all know this one. It's that relentless, never-ending fire hose of information from social media, from the news cycle. It's just constant. And all that noise, it just feeds our inner critic and gives us this really warped, kind of hostile view of the world and our place in it. Okay, so that's the diagnosis of the problem. But a good architect doesn't just stand there and admire the cracks in the foundation, right? They draw up a new master plan. So let's talk about how we build a brand new, much more resilient internal structure. This new master plan is built on 3 solid pillars of transformation. Number 1, we're going to restore something called the COHERENT Nexus. Number 2, we have to purify the interface. And number 3, we're going to implement active future pacing. These are our foundational steps for the whole redesign. So what the heck is the COHERENT Nexus? Well, think about it like this. Your real, sustainable energy and strength come when the 4 core levels of your being are all lined up and working together. We're talking about your mental level, reframing your thoughts; your emotional level, managing your state; your spiritual level, connecting to your purpose; and your biological level, sleep, nutrition, movement. When those 4 are in sync, you get coherence, you get power. Our second pillar is all about purifying your interface. This means you stop being a passive sponge for information and you become a conscious gatekeeper, a bouncer at the door of your mind. You take control. And this creates a fundamental shift. You stop asking, oh no, what's happening to me? And you start asking a much better question. Okay, what action can I take now? And here is the single most important filter for that gate. For every article you read, every video you watch, every podcast you listen to, you just ask this one simple question. Does this feed my vision or does it feed my fear? If the answer is fear, it doesn't get in. It's really that simple. Okay, now for the third pillar. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is about implementation.
It's about laying the very first stone and turning that massive, paralyzing feeling of overwhelm into one single, concrete action. So let's start with a really common source of that paralysis, right? This big, fuzzy, overwhelming vision. I want a meaningful career and I want to be financially independent, but it all just feels impossible. That kind of big picture anxiety is what keeps us completely frozen. So, the architect's solution to this is a process called chunking down. It's brilliant. You take that impossible vision and you just start breaking it into smaller, controllable pieces. Let's walk through it. That 5-year vision of a leadership role, that becomes a 1-year milestone. Just finish my degree and get certified in 3 key skills. Okay, we can chunk that down to a quarterly project, complete my thesis proposal, and finish a data course. Which we can chunk down even more to a weekly task. Write the thesis intro and watch 2 lessons of the course. And finally, that brings us all the way down to today's action. Just read the thesis guidelines. That's it. And that right there is the first stone. That tiny, immediate, non-negotiable action that you can get right now. This is where the magic happens. It's in this moment that paralysis shatters and real, actual momentum begins to build. See, what all of this leads to is this incredibly powerful shift in your identity. You go from feeling powerless against this giant, scary future to a new, empowering belief. I am the operator of these small, achievable steps. You're not a victim of the grand plan. You're the one in the driver's seat executing the small steps. And that brings us right back here to you. The entire blueprint is laid out. All that's left is to act. So, the final question is a simple one, but it's the most important one. What is the first stone you will lay today?